Hello, happy Sabbath. Welcome back to a chapter a day. Today we are going to be reading Job chapter 6. Now we have read two chapters, 4 and 5, when Job's friend Eliphaz the Temanite, remember he had three friends that came in, and when they saw his condition and how mournful he was, they just sat quietly and they didn't speak. But then Job started speaking. And he lamented his birth, his conception, everything, the day that he was born, the day he exists. And then after he was finished lamenting, his friend Eliphaz decided to speak up, and he told Job some things about God being fair. So if we are getting punishment, it must be because we did something wrong. So in other words, everything Eliphaz had said so far is to kind of accuse Job that he's reaping what he sowed. And he went on in chapter 5, and he made comparisons about things, and that God corrects those. Happy is the man that God corrects, and we should not despise the chastening of God. And I know we've heard that in the Christian realm many times. We have said it to each other, or just said it maybe to ourselves. But in essence, he is more or less kind of testing which either way Job has gone, whether he was guilty and he's reaping what he sows, or he's innocent and God is just allowing him to go through these things for his own good. Who knows? Okay, let's see what happens in chapter 6. But Job answered and said, "Oh, that my grief were thoroughly weighed, and my calamity laid in the balances together. For now it would be heavier than the sand of the sea, therefore my words are swallowed up. For the arrows of the Almighty are within me, the poison whereof drinketh up my spirit. The terrors of God do set themselves in array against me. Doth the wild ass bray when he hath grass? Or loweth the ox over his fodder? Can that which is unsavory be eaten without salt? Or is there any taste in the white of an egg? The things that my soul refused to touch are as my sorrowful meat. Oh, that I might have my request, and that God would grant me the thing that I long for. Even that it would please God to destroy me, that he would let loose his hand and cut me off. Then should I yet have comfort, yea, I would harden myself in sorrow. Let him not spare, for I have not concealed the words of the Holy One." So Job is now speaking for himself again. And he is lamenting that God is really punishing him. The arrows of the Almighty are within me. The poison darts are there within his spirit. And again, he is wishing that God would just end his life rather than have him suffer this. I don't know for how long. Again, I have always said, we don't know for how long Job suffered. We always talk about the patience of Job. Length of time will determine our patience, yeah? So I don't know. I don't know if it's ever been mentioned. I can't remember reading it anywhere as to how long this went on for. We have about 40 chapters in Job, and it's lamentations all the way through, and judgment from his friends, lamentations from Job. I don't know. But this is a tough thing for anyone to go through. Anyone. Any stages of our life, whatever it is, whatever degree of persecution we may be going through. Especially if it is ongoing and you see no end to it. Okay, verse 11. "What is my strength that I should hope? And what is mine end that I should prolong my life? Is my strength the strength of stones, or is my flesh of brass? Is not my help in me, and is wisdom driven quite from me? To him that is afflicted, pity should be showed from his friend, but he forsaketh the fear of the Almighty. My brethren have dealt deceitfully as a brook, and as the stream of brooks they pass away." So I'm not sure if here he's talking about his friends and they are not showing him much pity, Instead, they're kind of accusing him, that he may be just getting his just desert. Let's go on. Verse 16. Which are blackish by reason of the ice, and wherein the snow is hid. What time they wax warm, they vanish. When it is hot, they are consumed out of their place. The paths of their way are turned aside. They go to nothing and perish. The troops of Timar looked. The companies of Sheba waited for them. They were confounded because they had hoped. They came thither and were ashamed. Okay, so I'm not quite sure what he's referring to in these few verses here. Okay, he's talking about his brethren has dealt deceitfully with him. So I'm not sure if that's his relatives or if that's his friends. But he's talking about, maybe they weren't very upfront with him. They were kind of underneath. These things that he's describing, the wax warm in when it is hot, the paths of their way are turned aside. They go to nothing, and perish. Okay, so let's continue reading on. Maybe we'll understand it a little better. Okay. Verse 21. For now you are nothing. You see my casting down and are afraid. Did I say, bring unto me, or give a reward for me of your substance? Or deliver me from the enemy's hand, or redeem me from the hand of the Almighty? Teach me, and I will hold my tongue, and cause me to understand wherein I have erred. How forcible are right words, but what doth your arguing reprove? Do you imagine to reprove words, and the speeches of one that is desperate, which are as wind? Yea, ye overwhelm the fatherless, and you dig a pit for your friend. Now therefore be content, look upon me, for it is evident unto you if I lie. Return, I pray you, let it not be iniquity. Yea, return again, my righteousness is in it. Is there iniquity in my tongue? Cannot my taste discern perverse things? Wow, so here Job is asking, and I believe it's his friends he's addressing. He says, have I asked anything of any of you? I didn't ask you to redeem me from my situation. I didn't ask you to bring me any rewards. But here you are, you're saying words that really and truly are not helping me. You're helping to dig a pit for me, for a friend. So be content to just look at me, but your words are scathing, in other words, is what he's saying. If there's iniquity in what I have said, then I think I can discern right from wrong. I have said nothing wrong. It's just how I feel, So while he is there chastising Job and remember in the early verse of chapter 4, early verses, where he was saying, you more or less are, you gave advice to other people, and then, hey, you can't practice what you preached. Yeah, when you told people certain things to, console them, now you're in that position, or even worse. And what are you practicing? Lamenting and wishing you were dead, or that you were never born? We all do it. We all get to that place, or have done it at some point in time, where there's such misery in our lives that we just want it to end. And if death is the way out, then that's how we are looking at it. And I'm telling you, we cannot be deceitful in our own feelings. We know where we've been. And some of us have been maybe not exactly in Job's position, but we have been in hardships where that was our cry to God. So that's what Job is saying. He's telling his friends, you know what? I haven't asked you to come here to heal me or to, bring me anything that would give me consolation. But your words, at least, should be able to help me. But you're helping me to dig a pit for myself. Just be content to look on me and see that there is nothing wrong. I'm saying there's nothing wrong that I have done. And that's a hard thing to do. Try to convince people, especially sometimes, people's minds are set on believing the worst about you. And there's nothing you can do about that. You're trying to convince them as to your innocence, and they are just seeing everything guilty about you. Oh boy. Well, that's the end of Job chapter 6. We'll see how it keeps going for Job, but that's a tough situation that Job is enduring. And again, I say I don't know for how long that went on, because that will break anyone's spirit. Yeah. So that's our reading for today. Again, happy Sabbath. Take the rest that God has commanded us to do. Enjoy the day that God has blessed. This is the only day God has blessed, okay, and called holy and sanctified it and said rest. So you know, with your rest and with your worship, there is a blessing on this day only. No one said you can't attend church on any other day. Feel free to worship every day, which we should, but only one day. The seventh day, the Sabbath day, has been blessed by God and set aside for us to do so. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you all again for listening. Remember, keep on hearing God's word and our faith will grow. Take care. Bye.